Hey folks, welcome back to Money and Politics, and we've got a good show for you tonight, and we have some big news, and I suspect a whole lot of you already know what the big news is. Go ahead and comment if you would. Put a comment below the video and let me know what you think of the big news. And the big news is that we have wealth manager Rob Luna, who recently toured Humbl. This is his Instagram page, is now going to be joining Humbl as an advisor to Brian Foote and the Humbl team. And that's, I think, some really good news. Probably done more programming on Humbl than anyone else on YouTube. Talking about almost probably 90% of the time, going back to January 25 when I did my very first video, which was on Humbl. So the point is here that Humbl is and continues to be one of the real emerging stories over the course of 2021 and into the future. Now, the problem that we have had is a couple of things, and I'm going to get, by the way, let me interrupt myself and say, Brian Foote and Rob Luna put together an announcement just a short while ago. They did it live on Rob Luna's page on Instagram, where they streamed about 8 minutes. I have the entire 8-minute segment posted, so if you want to go and watch that. Now, I apologize a little bit for the audio. Long story short, I won't go into it, but a little technical things that the audio there is a little hollow. That said, the entire 8 minutes is there if you want to listen to it, and I encourage you to do that. I'm going to show a couple of clips from that 8 minutes. They're each in the neighborhood of a minute long. Now, why I think this is big is a variety of reasons. Humbl, as you know, is doing about 4 or 5 things, and Rob Luna says that this could be a $1 trillion business going down the road. Now, what I also like that Luna says, it's the same thing I've been telling you, is that they have to execute. As long as the story is good, I say, you stick with the company. And people say, well, how long should I hold the stock, as if we're supposed to be day traders? No, you hold the stock as long as the company has a good story and as long as they continue to execute on their story, especially when you have a newborn company like Humbl, who, came out of the womb, I'm going to say for practical purposes, in January. Now, they were box 30? I've forgotten now as I'm saying this. But anyway, they were operating as a private business before, and they had the expertise of Brian Foote. But they just got their deal together in January. They've been hiring people. And Brian announced that not only, Rob came down and said that Rob grilled Brian for about 6 hours. And the fact that now Rob wants to be a part of Humbl is, number one of the big things about this. And I think that this is where Humbl has been missing this kind of advice that Rob Luna, I believe, can bring to the organization. And Brian Foote also announced that there were going to be a couple of more advisors coming on. I believe he said that he would be announcing that tomorrow. Now, and by the way, I should also say, and this is on the very end of Rob Luna's video with Brian, that Rob Luna said he was going to then tape something even more in-depth, a video even more in-depth, and that would be up on Rob Luna's YouTube page, and he said that would be posted tomorrow. Okay, so we got rid of all of that. I think this is of the last 6 months now that we've been looking at Humbl. And man, hard to believe, I did my first video on January 25 and tomorrow's June 25 is 6 months. Since we've been on this story, and a number of people who joined us early kind of lost heart and I think bailed. and the stock went down. And I think, and what I was always trying to tell people is, folks, you're building a business here. I think the last video I said, it takes a while to build an enterprise, right? Go back and look at that. Rob Luna is going to bring in a business expertise that I think Brian hasn't had. And I'm not saying that to be critical of Brian, who's a brilliant guy. But, you know, as I often say, not all of us can sing like Julie Andrews. Not all of us can throw a 95-mile-an-hour fastball. We all have our own talents and expertise. And I think Brian has, reading between the lines and kind of having been there where he is, I think he's been overworked and been doing a great job getting as much done as he has been done. But when you're in that early stages of building a business, and it just, there's no shortage of things to do every single day, that I've questioned where I have questioned the company and how it's going. I've questioned sometimes some of the business decisions, and I've just kind of wondered here and there why so many shares were given out to this person, why so many shares were given out to that person. And I just didn't know, to the extent of where Brian was so talented, that to what extent did his talent come into play in terms of the business part. And again, folks, I think this is where a Rob Luna can shine. Rob Luna can bring things to the table that Brian couldn't. Now, that all said, as I said, let's bring up the first bite of two that we're going to hear. And this is, excuse me for a second while I adjust something. This is going to be Rob Luna talking with Brian about what he sees about the company.
I kind of stumbled into Humbl, something I was just looking at on my radar before I got onto the Fox show. I did a little bit of research on Brian. It turns out he's a good guy. He's one of us, UCLA Bruins, go Bruins. So we had that in common. I think that's probably what gave him a little bit more trust to bring me in there as that framework. But you know, at the end of the day, those of you guys who know me, I've been in this business all my life. My reputation is everything. If you look me up on the SEC, everything I do is about doing things the right way, taking no shortcuts, and I wasn't going to take it easy on this guy either, right? And so when you guys came out to me, when I put it out on Twitter, when I saw the average investor out there who was having an opportunity essentially to get into an early stage company, but obviously there's not a lot of information out there right now that you're able to make prudent decisions on, I looked at it as, you know, this is my honest job and duty to get out there and provide you as much information as possible. You know, I was saying on Fox last week, obviously, that this is a $1 trillion idea, and I believe it is, right? Amazon was a $1 trillion idea. If I would have told you in 1992 about Google, you would have said I'm crazy, right? Until they made it a search box and it was easy and it now dominates our world. So when I look at this, it is an opportunity, but like I said before, I caution everybody at any early stage. And I've got clients, multimillionaires that have been investing in early stage companies for a long period of time. It really is about two things. Number one, it's actually three. Number one, it's the idea of where are you going, right? Number two, it's the strategy. And number three, it's the team's ability to be able to execute. So what I first loved about this company was the idea. I was really even, quite honestly drawn more into it when I saw the shareholder base out there, the enthusiasm, the ecosystem, and the culture who are really supporting Humbl. That's what got me excited. I've been on social media for a while. I've never had as much engagement, and that's why I said, I really got to see what's going on with this company.
And there you have it. And, one of the things I think was kind of fun and interesting for all of us who have joined in Humbl Nation, and how many times have we said that it seems as if when you're talking on Humbl Nation, it's almost like a big family. And I've said before, we talk, about Biker Dude and Rebecca and just, the different group that we've talked about, Allie up in New York. We really kind of seem to hit it off and have a feeling that I've never really had investing with other companies. And this next bite I'm going to play, Rob's talking about that, and it mentions near the end that, he is so impressed with the level of interest by we, the retail investors. So the other thing, and what I've said in the past, and I think it's interesting that Rob is saying the same thing. You have a great idea. Humbl has a great idea. They've started putting it all together, and now the whole thing is execution. So can we as a company execute on hitting the benchmarks we want to hit, and updating the app and getting peer-to-peer and all the rest that we know? Can we get it done on execution? Again, I think that's something Rob here is talking about, and I think that's another area where he probably can be a very good advisor to Brian. But let's take a listen to this next spot. It runs about 1:15, and then I'll come back and talk some more.
And when I started looking at it, when you talk about blockchain is the bleeding edge of technology. It's going to change the way the world is run. It's going to change the way business is being done. And I've talked to people out there running third-party intermediary businesses. I said, you better change something because you're going to be put out of business. And I really believe that's what blockchain's doing. So when I look at Brian and his team, I think there's a lot of good parts out there. There's a lot of work we need to do. But I think my ability to help kind of look at shareholders, what they need, be able to take Brian and the team's vision and mission, articulate that back to you, but most importantly, not about giving you a price target on the stock or anything like that, making this company really execute, work on being that trillion-dollar company is what I'm here to do, and what I'm going to help Brian do while they focus on the intricacies of technology. And I never talk to a guy who knows more about blockchain than Brian. He makes me look dumb. I want them to continue to focus on that because that's what's going to add value. And what my job and my role out here is to do is to talk to shareholders, communicate what's going on, show you where we're going, let you know, hey, this is a bleeding edge technology company. If we're pivoting here, if we're pivoting there. But at the end of the day, it's about execution. That's what I'm here, and I'm going to really try to help you guys do. Looking forward to it. All right.
Rob Luna is part of the organization now, and I think this is just really good news for a host of reasons, probably most of which we don't even know right now. Thomas, my son Thomas, we were talking the other day about how the stock has just kind of been treading water in a marginal range. And he goes, well, we just haven't had any news. We haven't had any news event to kind of move the stock recently. Well, now we do. And we've all talked periodically about being uplisted from the OTC to NASDAQ. This is one of the areas where I think Rob Luna can really provide a great service and getting the word out more to the investment community, building the brand with those money managers like he is. And that's something that's very powerful here in my estimation, that we have a guy who's going to put the good housekeeping seal of approval on Humbl just by joining the firm in the way that he is as an advisor. So there's a lot of people in all walks of life, in all fields, but certainly in the financial market. There are a bunch of nervous Nellies in many cases, and a lot of them are followers more than leaders. And they don't want to stick their neck out and be the guy that, backs something that no one else has ever backed. That's what Rob Luna is doing. He's putting the brand, his credibility, and he talked about his credibility is everything in the business. And you can imagine who wants to invest with a guy you don't think is credible. So it is. And so congratulations to him for having, the courage of his convictions and to be putting himself out there and giving, as I say, the good housekeeping seal of approval on Humbl. It was kind of funny, it wasn't in the clip there, I don't think, that we played, where Rob said he was spending more time recently with Brian than he was with his fiance. So, big news in Humbl land. This is where I think we're going to look back a year from now, 2 years from now, and look at red letter days and what were the pivot points along the way. This will certainly be one of them. June 24, 2021. And folks, I'm not saying that we're just going to take off like a rocket, but I am saying that this is a company that is part of the future. it's building toward that future. It can be one of the great companies ever. And it's not for nothing that I've spent the majority of my time over the last 6 months in making these videos talking about Humbl. And people wonder, why are you talking about Humbl all the time? A lot of you haven't asked me that, but others ask me. I say, what's a better story? And there was so much to cover in the development stage. Anyway, it's going to be exciting, going to be fun. I hope you all are sticking around and not getting discouraged. I'm going to let you go for now. We will join up again, I think, tomorrow night, and we'll talk, and we'll probably find out who some of the other advisors are. And folks, stay true, stay humble, and we will see you tomorrow night. Thanks as always for watching. Tell me, give me your comments. What do you think of this development?